Welcome back, everybody, to Beat Your Addictions. I'm your co-host, Scott Jones, of course, with the one and only Mr. John Giordano.
Hi.
Right there. And we've got a really special guest. Before I introduce him, though, I want to make sure that you are responsible on your end. Make sure you like this show, share it with your friends, and hit the reminder button so when other shows come on, you'll see them. But today, John, you brought a great guy with you. This is one of the, you know, you meet a lot of people in the world and some people just like really make an impact. This is one of those guys.
Absolutely. You should hear him speak. It's unbelievable.
Well, maybe we'll let him do that today. Speak a little bit. What do you think? Or maybe not.
Well, maybe not.
No.
I don't know.
No, this is Steve Boyarsky.
Right, Stevie B. Steve Boyarsky.
Stevie B is what you go by?
I go by Stevie B.
Mm-hmm. All right.
I go by Stevie B in faith-based communities and recovery community because it's easier than Boyarsky. It's even easier for me than Boyarsky.
It's Stevie Beautiful.
It's Stevie B.
You know what? Some people can pull off names like you're one of those people that can those kind of names because it really you can feel the energy of it.
Yeah,
you can feel the energy. Now you are the CEO and spiritual director and one of the founders of JC Recovery Center.
That's correct,
and that's right in the main base is in Hollywood,
Florida.
Is it
correct.
Hollywood? Yeah, it is
Hollywood. Yeah.
Hollywood, Florida. And tell me about JC Recovery and where that comes from.
Well, first of all, the name JC is my grandfather, John Cascone. A lot of people think it's Jesus Christ since that's my Lord and Savior, and that's the I'm in faith-based recovery. That's always been where I found my place in faith-based recovery. But the name is JC, John Cascone. He left me the money 14 years ago to start something that would change people's lives, and we started JC Recovery House back in 2013, right after my grandfather died. And the name just went perfectly with everything that I stand for, that we stand for. So back then it was completely Christian. Now it's faith-based, open to all faiths, and which is very, very exciting for me to have all faiths there. And we believe in a mind, body, spirit approach. And so I've been following John for years in the recovery community. Based on his experience and what he did with G&G Holistics. I mean, he's famous. Everybody knows him. Plus, I also have a background in martial arts, not to the extent of John. And I also believe in almost everything that he believes in terms of the mind, body, and spirit. You know, taking care of the mind. Taking care of the mind.
Yeah.
Taking care of the body. And, of course, the spirit. And if we put that three-pronged approach to recovery, then we're not going to leave anything open or empty. And that's what happens, Scott. People just take care of maybe the spirit. Like I've seen that in faith-based communities. They just take care of the spirit, but then they still use again. Or people that just take care of the mind. They just do it the analytical approach and they let the body go. And then the body is craving for something. And when the body craves for something, the body then tells the mind, go and get that. So the mind, body, and spirit approach, I think is incredible. So when I met John finally in person, I just fell in love with the person he is.
Well, first of all, if we got enough time at the end of the show, we'll have you two fight with the karate thing and see what happens.
Oh, no, there's no doubt. There's no
doubt
who's going to win that. He can win that with one finger.
John, this is right up your alley.
Well, you know, let me tell you something. I before I went partners with them, I did my investigation, my $55 investigation. Mm-hmm. And when I found out that these are people that really care about God's kids. And especially, you know, Stevie is amazing speaker. And I don't just say that lightly, okay? I don't get impressed easily with people. But when he speaks from his heart. And so, I mean, I go up to Boca Raton to one of the churches up there, and he does an AA meeting up there. And we got about 250 people up there.
Yeah.
And they're all at the edge of their seats, listening to him, laughing. We're hysterical laughing, okay? Because he's not only engaging, he's funny and makes it like where you really want to hear and listen to what he has to say. And it doesn't just touch your head, it touched my heart. And that's the most important part. When you speak with clients, you can't just give them book knowledge. You have to give them part of your soul to touch their soul.
Right.
And that's what they do with JC's. So what I did is I brought the holistic part to JC's. We have an incredible program.
Yeah, what John brought in with cold immersion therapy, which is cold plunge, with the bariatric chambers,
Mm.
all the things that he's been doing for all these years to increase his longevity and the longevity of the mind. He brought that to JC's. So now we have yoga, and we have cold, like I said, the cold plunge, the cold immersion therapy. We're doing breath work, targeted breath work. All these things that I always would think as a Christian minister that was out of the ballpark for me because it was too new agey. I found that it's not really about new agey. It's really about keeping an open mind to things that really we can learn from. It's not that I'm worshiping these things, Scott. It's not that I'm worshiping yoga. When I do yoga, I'm practicing it to my Lord. I'm not worshiping the cold therapy. I'm not worshiping the brain mapping. But what I'm doing is I'm learning from them. So some of the things that John said to me in the beginning, keep an open mind. I said, oh, well, I can't keep an open mind. He said, well, just keep an open mind, see what happens. And now I've kept an open mind, and I've had some amazing breakthroughs.
Well, it's interesting because you break your leg, and of course you want to pray, and you want to make sure that you are in good standing, and take care of your spiritual side.
Right.
But you also need to wrap the leg.
Right.
You also need to
exactly
the
Bible says
do certain things.
Sorry, I didn't mean to.
No,
the Bible says faith without works is dead. So if I have faith that my leg is going to get healed, but I don't do anything about it, it's still going to be not healed. So that was one of the things that when John brought that over to JC's, I was excited and apprehensive because my partner Brandon and my partner John, they were both, you got to see this guy. I had always heard about him. And one of my partner's daughter used to work for him. So of course, and his name in the industry for 35 years is just gold. So I was excited, but I was not excited about some of the things that I thought that he was going to bring there. But it turns out that those are all the things that I was missing in terms of my mind, really in terms of my mind. I was good in the spirit area, but I was really not as focused as I could be in the meditation and the breath work and all the things that John brought to us.
Well, what we do also is, you see, the body is connected to the head. Last time I checked.
In most cases.
What's happening in treatment centers, it's a 70-year-old model that only has a 5 to 8% recovery rate.
Yeah.
Now, why does it have an only 5 to 8% recovery rate? Because we're not looking at people comprehensively. We're not looking at people individually. That's why it's called holistic. Holistic means holism. So what we do is first of all, is micronutrient testing. We want to see where there's deficiencies in the body, because that matters, because the body no longer is in homeostasis if your body's out of balance. Then we do gut testing. Your gut is your second brain. Dopamine and serotonin, about 80 to 90% is manufactured in your gut, goes up the vagus nerve and deposits it into your brain. If your gut's out of whack, everything else is out of whack. So now you're looking at that. Now there are co-contributing factors to addiction that no one's looking at. Leaky gut syndrome, H. pylori infection. Oh, by the way, everyone, look this stuff up. Do not believe a word I tell you. I want you to find out and do your own investigation. All right. You have hypoglycemia. We check for heavy metals also.
Low testosterone, high testosterone.
Right.
Both of these things could set you
all
off.
these things.
Vitamin deficiencies. John brought a whole plethora of vitamin protocols to JC's now that we didn't even know that we needed. Amino acids he's brought to us that we didn't even know that. Because what happens is an addict is out there. They're not taking care of themselves. Even the highest end addict has nothing to do with finances. You're not taking care of yourself because your primary focus is to feed your addiction. So you come in here, or you come into a recovery and you're immunodeficient, you're vitamin deficient, you're amino acid deficient, and you're serotonin deficient. And so what John brought over to JC's is we need to take a look at the entire holistic picture. Yeah. You can't just I was always great in the spiritual area in terms of helping the people with the spiritual, but then they're leaving the center and they still have this hole in their side in terms of the body. And John's like, if that doesn't get fixed, if this leaky gut, if this serotonin deficiency, if this testosterone deficiency or testosterone, too much testosterone, if this doesn't get fixed, people are going to go back to what they know, and that's self-medication. Am I right, John?
Absolutely. And see, with the faith-based part, okay, we had a faith-based track at G&G.
Yes.
It's not anywhere close to what they do at JC's.
It's comprehensive.
It's so engaging, and so it just brings a new life to recovery, which I never realized the depth of what faith-based brings to the table. I knew it was important. I know it needed as a foundation for recovery, but the way they approach it there is mind-boggling.
Well, you know, John,
No,
you've
thank
been
you so
body,
much.
mind, spirit from the very beginning. Back when I worked with you in G&G years
Right.
ago, and before that, and it's a simple equation. It's a triangle: body,
Right.
mind, and spirit. And if one of those is damaged, you no longer have a solid triangle. It's that simple.
Correct.
And if you don't fix them all, you're going to walk around.
Well,
Now, there are some people, we all know them. There's some people who might go to church and just swear off, and then they're fine.
Well, it
But
has
that's
happened.
A rare minority.
Scott, it's happened,
It's
but
a
it's rare.
minority.
Yep.
And just like you said, the proof that 5 to 8% success rate in the best treatment centers still. We got to keep finding new ways to help people.
Well, you see,
and I
here's
think
the
you're on
problem.
on the track.
Let me tell you something. What we did and what we found, and I think God sent it to us. We found a group of people that have a grant that actually bring about 10 people to our treatment center once a week. They do nutrient IVs. They do counseling
very
for
successful.
nutrition.
Wow.
They do all of this. All these. They do STDs. They
Well,
test
that's the
for
testing,
STDs.
but the infusions is what's been
The
exciting.
infusion,
Yeah.
but it's the whole thing that they do.
Yeah, it's very exciting.
And insurance doesn't cover this stuff. It's for
They're
free.
blessing us with it. They're
It's for
blessing
free.
us with it.
No charge. I mean, so our clients that have really poor insurance also get the body part of treatment. No treatment center that I know does that. First of all, the insurance companies, I don't believe they want us to get well. Okay, because if they did, why would they continue to use a methodology that has a 5 to 8% recovery rate? It just doesn't make sense.
It's because they're about harm reduction and not
They are about
healing.
harm reduction.
They're not about healing. They're about harm reduction.
And John, and I don't think it's the insurance companies. I don't think they know what to do. I think that everyone's at a loss right now. So people, the new model is just throw Suboxone at them. If they're comfortably numb, then they're not going to use. And that's not the model that we believe in. We'll allow people to come to JC's on Suboxone, but we're going to encourage them, highly encourage them,
and we titrate them. We titrate
to
them
leave
down.
their.
Which is what they were supposed to do.
Yes.
That's what it was intended for.
Yes.
Suboxone, Subutex, Sublocade, all those things. It was supposed to be a titration.
So that's what we're believing in the titration. I'm gonna ask you a question. Have you ever cold plunged? Have you ever done cold immersion therapy?
I've done the ice plunge up
Yeah,
in New York,
yeah.
On the lake.
Okay.
And it is the most exhilarating.
It's incredible. John brought that to the center. I thought it was all.
I will say, when you first hit the lake water, your first thought is, "What the hell am I doing?"
Well, that's.
But the next.
But
thought,
Scott, that's the
it's
flight,
invigorating.
that's the fight or flight
Yeah.
experience that you're supposed to. That's what God gave us in terms of a brain. Like, this is not
Absolutely
good for you, and that's why your heart starts racing, your breath starts racing. But what we found out, I mean, John's in his 70s. He does 5 minutes, 6 minutes at 45 degrees, 43 degrees. My other partner's in his 70s also, or low 70s, and he's also doing the same. My mother, Scott, is 81. She was in the cold tank with us this week.
And his mother's incredible. By
Yeah.
the way.
Really?
She's
unbelievable.
unbelievable. She's a doctor.
She's one of the first chiropractors in the entire state of New York, and she's doing cold immersion therapy. She's doing cold plunging.
Wow.
We now are bringing cold plunging right onto the campus. Go ahead.
Well, you know what it does, what people don't understand. Besides getting rid of inflammation
Mhm.
and helping people with pain, it teaches you how to focus your mind. It teaches you how to discipline yourself.
Correct.
So when Mr. Addiction comes knocking on your door, you have at least that focus and that discipline to fight it off. I know that may sound like a little crazy.
No, but it's true. It's actually true.
No,
This
I did
whole
a
thing is
fire
true.
walk. It was a similar kind of
Right.
thing. You got to have the right mindset.
Right,
Exactly.
I've done
To
fire
go
walk.
ahead and do that.
That's right.
And that was amazing.
Well,
And that lines up, may I just say, that lines up with the Philippians 4:13, that we can do all things through God who strengthens us. When you're in doing the fire walk, or when you're doing the cold plunge, or when you're breaking a set of bricks with your hand, and you're focused for that moment, and you believe that God can get you through that, then when Mr. Addiction calls and says you need to get high, you're like, no, I don't need to get high. I just did 5 minutes in 40-degree water. I certainly don't need to get high. I can do all things through God who strengthens me.
And that's the bottom line. So, see, the things that we encourage people to do, you see, like a lot of people that have opioid addiction, some of them have real pain. Okay, we're teaching them how an alternative to pain can work, because you can't just say, okay, your pain doesn't exist, because that doesn't work.
Correct.
Okay,
Right.
so what
right.
you got to give people alternatives. Now, we don't have it in house. We take them out into the world, because when they leave us, They have to go out into the world.
Right. So we're taking them to places that have these techniques, the cold immersion therapy, the breath work,
The yoga.
the yoga, the sauna. We're taking them to places so that we're like, listen, this is what exists in Fort Lauderdale, a place called The Space. This is what exists over here called the Yoga Joint. This is what exists over here. This is the medical office that you can go to, so that they're not tethered to JCs. It's not like the only thing that can get there. They know they can get this in the outside world.
And you want them to utilize these modalities in different things to
Right.
help
Yeah.
themselves.
So we have a coach that takes them, actually drives them there, works with them, teaches them the 1 day a week, teaches them how to cook healthy food. We give them
Oh, that's
organic
good.
food and natural foods, okay, to help bring homeostasis back into the body. Because also teach them about how to drink enough water. Water, addicts come in protein deficient and volume depleted, and their body's totally out of balance. So how can their mind be balanced? So what we do at JC's, and we give them individual attention. We do trauma work with them. We do family, group, individual therapy with them. And we look at them as an individual. God made these children, okay, individually, but yet we're all the same. And we treat them individually. And that's what's missing in treatment. It's one shoe fits all. Doesn't work.
No, and it's the thing is, everybody says, well, once somebody,
Well said, John. Well said.
Yeah, once somebody uses heroin, all of a sudden they're an addict, and they lose their humanity. And what you guys do is you treat the human.
Correct.
You treat the human. I mean, that's what you treat. You're not treating the disease as much as you are treating the human to transcend.
That's also well said.
And
100%.
Because I mean, and that's one of those mistakes. And everybody says, well, since you're an addict and you're an addict, you're exactly the same. We'll treat you the same.
Yeah.
That doesn't even make sense, because Bob and Mary are two different people.
Yeah.
Well, here's another issue. Also, we also have mental health people that come in. So we don't just
We have the best group facilitator ever on Fridays too. I think he's the best in the country, which is Scott.
I met him once.
He's unbelievable. Have you ever seen Scott's groups? He's unbelievable.
So
Thank you.
And I mean that. I mean, it's truly miraculous what you do in that group.
I appreciate that.
The way I look at people that come into us, and Stevie, what he does and what the team does, and it is a team. It's not John's show or Stevie's show. It's the team show.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which is very important, because everybody has something important to add to the treatment.
The Bible says that there's all different parts of the body, none greater than each other. You need the heart, you need the toe, you need the mind, you need the eyes. So for us to think that, like, well, John's group or this group or the science group is better or the faith group is better, it's all encompassing.
Right.
Because it's a spiritual malady, right? But and the body is a spiritual element of God. But if we don't address it all, then it's going to be left lacking.
Here's the way I look at it. God, whatever God is to anybody out there,
Right. Of your own understanding.
puts a light inside of each one of us. I believe that's the God in us. And that light with addiction, it is just flickering. And when they come to a faith-based program like JC's, what we do is we help that light to grow. Okay. And light is so powerful that people don't get it. You can have a totally dark room and you light a match, and I don't care how big that room is, that match you could see anywhere. So the light is more powerful than the darkness.
That's right.
And that's what we focus on, is to bring that light back into God's kids, okay, to see that, listen, you can do this with God's help, whatever God is to you. I don't care if you're Jewish, you're Muslim. We don't care.
Well, that's religion. We don't get into the religion at JC's.
No, faith is different than religion.
Yeah, we're not getting into the religion part. No. People come in as we've had plenty of atheists come in. We even had a couple of Satanists. We have one specific, a young man by the name of Noah, who was like on the Satan track. And but by the time they leave JC's, they're on the faith track.
And look, we don't do everything perfect, because if you think we're saying we're perfect, we're not.
Of course not.
Because the only one that's perfect is the God of my understanding.
That's right. So
the bottom line is that we come from our heart, not just from our head. And that's what attracted me to JC. I got back in, I sold in 2012, and I was doing lectures and writing books and doing research and all that stuff. But when I came across this company, okay, that struggles. We struggle with money.
Yeah.
Okay. I got to be very honest with everybody, and we need all the help we can get to do this work. You know, and the insurance companies are tightening and tightening and tightening and paying less, and they're over regulating, and it's cost more to run a treatment center. You know, people say, "Oh, you got all these clients." No, it costs. It's how much money comes in. No, it's how much money goes out that matters.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you know what? I don't know how. Okay. Well, I do know how. Okay, because God is watching over this treatment center. Because all I can tell you is this: they should have went, and I hate to say it,
No, you're right, John. You could say it
a few times.
Sure.
And for some reason, somehow, in the last
right at 12:05, not at 11:59, at 12:05, after it's already been passed, at the last moment, God's brought a miracle.
I am a firm believer, and you guys know that you know, what about struggling in a business? We were just talking about it before, but there's always been that something has caught us, because I believe, as you used to teach, and you still do, if you do the right things, the money will follow.
That's right.
But you focus on the right things. You don't focus on the money. People who focus on the money, because whenever you put money and client care in the same room, money's always going to win. You got to push that aside and just focus on client care.
That's what we did with G&G. You know,
good points,
for me to start a company with $300, me and my partners. Okay, well, it's only me, and then it was Jerry, and then Gerald, my other partner, and sell it for $45 million or $2.
What an exciting story! What an exciting story!
We could not, but we had creditors chasing us. We couldn't make payroll. My mother was working. I never forget. My mother was working for us, right? And she saw all the bills on the desk, so she decided to mail them. But what she didn't know, we didn't have the money yet to pay the darn things. So we had checks going bouncing everywhere. We're like, "Oh my God, Mom, what'd you do?" "Oh, I thought I had to mail them." I said, "No." But then we got the money and we took care of it. So, you know, God watched over that program. And what happened in the communities, now everybody's holistic. Well, they don't even know what the word means, I think, sometimes.
Well, it has been tossed around by everybody.
Right.
Everybody, we're going to call ourselves a holistic program. We're holistic. But and sometimes it's frustrating, because when people use words like that.
How come they're using words like that, Scott, and they're not addressing the spirit, the holistic approach?
That's because they're simply using the holistic as an attraction. They're not actually performing holistic.
Exactly. Right. You know, it's like you got to, you know, in recovery we call it. You can talk the talk, but you have to walk the walk.
Yes, correct.
Okay, and if you don't walk the walk, you're not in recovery. You're just talking.
Listen, before we go any further, I just want to ask everybody out there who's watching, please, if you've been looking at different treatment centers, or if you have questions, I encourage you to reach out to JC Recovery Center, jcrecoverycenter.com, and check out their website. You could call the phone number on the screen, 844-524-6873. Give them a call. Ask questions. You encourage people to call, even if just to say, "I don't know what to do about this."
Of course, and they can call me directly. They can call Stevie B directly, and we help them get to where they need to go. If they don't have the insurance for us, or they can't do the private pay for us,
we help them.
We help them to get to either a scholarship part of our program, or we help them get to a program where their insurance covers it. Well, so they can get in touch with me directly.
And here's the deal: if you're looking for a fancy place and all of this stuff, that's not us.
Yeah, no, we're not
fancy. If you're looking for a place that really works, okay, and really cares about you, and really goes that extra mile, then come on over.
You know, it's funny.
Good, well said again.
It's great to have all the bells and whistles, and to have them.
We have the bells.
Yeah,
and we have whistles. They're just older bells and whistles. They have some tarnish on them, so it's not going to be fancy.
We shine them up every
but we shine them up, but it's not fancy. We're still using bells from a couple decades ago, but they're working, and these things don't change. You know, I remember in my mother's office, Scott, her chiropractic office was one of the most successful chiropractic offices in Long Island. Her being one of the first women chiropractors, and her machinery was not the newest. And our office, which was in our house, was not the nicest. And the tables that she used was not the most unbroken. But she treated clients, 300 clients a week, and those clients got well. Wherever we would go, myself and my mom, my dad, when we'd be traveling in Long Island, people would stop. "Dr. Marie, Dr. Boyarsky, Dr. Marie, you helped me. You changed my life." It wasn't because of the fancy stuff. It wasn't because her office was fancy. It's because of the type of quality of care. And I think, let me just say this, I think people are getting mistaken. that just because it's a fancy chair you're in and a fancy van you're in, and then it's a fancy pool that you're swimming in, that doesn't produce longevity. Your tush doesn't know when you're on first class or if you're in coach. The destination is to get to Los Angeles, and you're not going to remember all the things that you had in that first class section if you don't get to Los Angeles. So you can have the fanciest chair and be sitting in the comfortablest chair, and you tried to get to Los Angeles, but you wound up in Ohio. It's still a bad experience.
Absolutely.
And JC's helps you get to where the destination, which is permanent sobriety, permanent recovery, one day at a time, through the holistic approach, mind, body, spirit, all equally important. And then we give you the tools on how to do it when they go home.
And one thing that we do is we have aftercare for life. As long as we're alive and you're alive, you can come to JC's, you come to Power Hour with Stevie, which is tremendous, okay? And then you can come to Alumni, okay, once a week. So you get 2 groups a week, as long as you want, and there's no charge. So as you get out of treatment, you come, you're part of our family. We don't just say, okay, your insurance is up, have a nice day. We don't do that.
That's correct. We don't do
okay,
that.
Once you become part of our family, you're part of our family for life.
Well, listen, it's got a lot to do with the people. It's got a lot to do with the people. In my experience in spending time, with your staff and on your campus has been great. I see staff walking around and they're smiling. They're talking to the clients. They're talking to each other with respect and dignity.
We pray every morning together, Scott. Every morning, our staff, regardless of their faith, we have every faith background on our staff. We have Orthodox Jewish people. We have people that are non-faith. We have Christian people. We have all different faiths on our staff. Every morning, we all get together for prayer between 9 and 9:30, right, John?
That's right.
And we pray together. We honor each other. We don't push each other on each other, but we bring the Lord into JC's so that the Lord does the work that we can't do, that we possibly cannot do on human strength.
But this doesn't come from a business model. This comes from you and
John Charles
and
John
Brandon
Charles
Brandon.
But here's the thing I want to ask you. I mean, the treatment center is great, but it's really about the people, and it's the people that make it great. But you personally, what is your? A lot of people out there believe recovery is just abstinence from drinking and drugs.
No. A relationship with God.
What is recovery for
you?
A
relationship with God will produce abstinence. Okay? Mm-hmm. A relationship with healing the broken parts of your body and mind and soul are going to produce abstinence. Our goal is not to shoot for abstinence. Our goal is to heal the mind, the body, and the spirit, where that produces abstinence, that produces sobriety, that produces recovery. And that's I learned in one of the courses, and I think it was with you. I've taken several courses, the interventionist course, the sober coach course. Recovery is different for everybody. For me, recovery is total abstinence. I cannot touch any mind or mood altering substance. For me, it's total abstinence. But for other people, recovery is different. They may be recovering from gambling. Like my dad went home to be with the Lord after 28 years in Gamblers Anonymous. His abstinence was he couldn't touch gambling. He couldn't be around the gambling.
Right.
So recovery is different for all people, is what I'm saying. But the bottom line is the faith-based approach, which is the underlying garment. If you don't heal the faith, if you still have a faith yearning, you're going to look for a power here on earth. And when you go to look for that power, it's going to be scratch off. It's going to be strip clubs. It's going to be alcohol. It's going to be drugs. It's going to be gambling, whatever it is. Food.
Work addiction.
Food. Whatever it is.
Well, I see, sex addictions, shopping addictions. There's a lot of things out there, obviously. But
shopping addiction,
certainly a relationship.
That's why when he said it, I went like this.
The relationship with the higher power. Yeah, I know. If I don't feel good, buying myself something nice.
I mean, unfortunately, yeah. But now, guess what I'm doing, Scott? I'm cold plunging, which has become a healthy addiction for me.
Well, I changed it by making sure I have no freaking money. That's what I did. And it works. It works. I don't buy anything.
You got to come over to the center and let us do the cold plunge with you. Okay, you got to do the cold plunge.
Absolutely.
It's such an unbelievable experience, and you can get into it for very cheap. You can get into it to $400. It's not like a big outlay. but you just got to purchase the ice.
For what, the year, right? Or how long is it?
No, but I'm saying if you get yourself a cold plunge in your house, and you it's $20 at Publix to get the ice when you want to do it, and that lasts 2 days. It's just the most incredible experience. My entire family is doing it. My 12-year-old that turned 13 today. Thank you so much, Michelle. He turned 13 today. Mazel tov. He cold plunged last week because I told him for every minute he's in the cold plunge, then he gets 10 minutes on his video game system, and he did.
He stayed in there for 6 hours.
He stayed in there for a very long time.
Right,
he was blue.
It was in 2 days, and the kid was like this. He couldn't play video anymore.
He just had little hands sticking out of an ice cube, clicking and clicking. No, but that's brilliant. But I want to know for you, because John, we talk all the time about the importance of our recovery in our lives. What was Steve before, and what is he now?
I was a horrible drug addict. I was also addicted to sexual things that were, street type of sexual things. I grew up in the Times Square, Manhattan type of situation where I went to those type of places when I was a kid. So I was multi-addicted, multi-transformational addicted. And so it was sex, it was alcohol, it was drugs, and it was also tobacco and a little bit of gambling. I had the whole plethora, and food. I was 280 pounds.
He's my brother from another mother.
Yeah, I had everything. Before shopping, because I didn't have any money, I had all of that. Okay, so this is what happened with me, Scott.
You were a non-denominational addict.
I was a non-denominational, open to everything. You talk about
I like that.
Honest, open-minded, and willing. I was honest and open-minded and willing, trying to anything that was there, I said yes to.
People said to me, what was your drug of choice? I said, whatever felt good.
Right, more.
Yeah.
Like Paulie says, may God rest his soul. Anything that affected him. That the only time that he ever said no to a drink or drug is when he didn't understand the question. So I was addicted to everything. And then my story is a little bit different. Alcoholics Anonymous brought me to God, and my wife brought me to church. I didn't know that I needed church. I was not a church person. My parents brought me to church when I was a kid. But my wife brought me to church when I had relapsed after having 7 years, and she brought me to church, and I didn't know it was a church because it didn't look like a church from the outside. And when I went in there, my story is I gave my life to Jesus. And when I gave my life to Jesus, being in Alcoholics Anonymous and then giving my life to Jesus, those two things came together for me. This is just my story, came together for me. I've never gambled this since. I've never been in a sex place since. I very rarely curse. Anyone that knows me knows that it's a very, very rare occasion. The tobacco went away. Obviously, I'm almost 23 years sober since then. So I became a minister. I get to marry people. Unfortunately, I get to do a lot of funerals. I say get to because at least I can be there for the family when they need someone to do a funeral for their kid. Unfortunately, but I've been blessed to travel around the country and speak at different churches about what the Lord has done for me, through me, and a lot of times in spite of me.
Wow. Now, both of you guys, I mean, John, you could have hung up your hat a little while back and just sat on the beach and relaxed and enjoyed yourself.
Right.
But you jumped right back into the mix.
Go.
Steve,
right in the mix.
Steve, you're a brilliant guy. You're funny. You're so smart. You're just a great guy. You could do anything. You probably succeed at anything you want to do.
Thank you, Scott.
Yeah, I got to ask you this. Yeah. What is it that every morning, because we lose a lot when we work in this industry. We lose a lot of
I'm so juiced up for the next new client.
We lose a lot.
I can't wait. I can't wait to get back to the center today to meet the new clients that came in.
It's not work. You know what it is? Everybody's, that's a lot of work. No, it's not work.
We had a client come in yesterday, Scott, completely covered in head to toe in tattoos. And so when you first look at him, you're like, oh my God, this is going to be a serious work. And we just go up and we love on him. And we brought him to a Bible study last night, and he just loved the Bible study. And we make a point to just every single, this wasn't a statement about tattoos. This was a statement on that if you judge people by their outside, by their color, their creed, their tattoos, they're wearing leather, they're wearing boots, they have nose rings. That was a big thing for me. I was really anti-facial jewelry. I grew up in an era where that was like at least my era. I'm not even talking about a time frame. When I look at a person's outside and I don't wait to meet their inside, I'm doing them a disservice. John reminds me of that all the time. John and my other partner, John Charles, he reminds me of that all the time. Don't judge, the old saying, don't judge a book by its cover. You got to get to know them.
Well, John grew up in a neighborhood where jewelry on the face was, what do they call them? Brass knuckles, right?
Well,
that's what you put on people's face.
Well, the jewelry in their face, they used to just use brass knuckles.
But I'm wondering personally, just for you, Again, there's nights when you lay down and it's like we've had a loss today, and we feel that. I hope we never reach a point. I hope we never.
We've had a lot of losses.
I hope we never reach
the recovery
a point
community
where we think
as
it's
a whole.
okay, where we think that it's necessary.
We never think
No.
it's okay.
Not every life counts.
No.
So sometimes when we have
Every life counts.
is there anything for either one of you? I've never asked you this, John, and I want to ask both of you. Has there ever been like one instance, one thing that happened that has stuck with you for years? One part of helping somebody or one change that you were a part of and been a part of their miracle
I could go
that
there.
has really stuck with you?
I could go there. I had this, I get a call at 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning, actually. I live right down the block from our treatment center, and it was in the 3-quarter-way house part, because we had 3-quarter-way houses also. And there's 2 girls locked in the bathroom, okay? And nobody can get in, and they're shooting up. So I run over there. I kick the door down because they wouldn't open the door. One girl's in the bathtub, half unconscious. The other one is dead. Purple lips, the whole thing. So I grab that one, and I do CPR, and I bring her back. And meanwhile, they call 911. She comes back. She looks at me, and she says, "You MF, why didn't you just let me die?" Okay? 3 years later, and I still feel this, 3 years later, I get a phone call, and I knew who this girl was when she called me. She told me her name, and I don't remember names. I'm terrible with different things, but her I remembered. And she said, "I want to thank you for saving my life. My life has changed tremendously, and I got into recovery."
That's why we do it.
Wow.
Now, that is the thing that impacted me most of all with all this. And my wife knows all this because she's been there for me. And God bless me with her.
Who happens to be in the room today.
Yes. And,
Michelle,
my wife
was just amazing.
And the next impact
An angel.
for me was my wife, when I was going out with her for 3 months, she sold her. I told her, "Why don't you sell your car? Give me the money," because we needed money. We didn't have any money. We're broke as a joke. All right. "And I'll buy your car 10 times better 1 year." So she sold the car and gave me $20,000. And 8 years later, I bought her a Bentley. Not that she wanted it, just that.
Where is that Bentley? We need that Bentley.
We need that Bentley. So that's the story. And you know what? My partners and I, money never changed us.
Yeah.
I watched money change people. We didn't care about that. We only cared about helping God's kids. And that's what our mission was. And that's what made us successful. So, and you work for me. So
Yeah.
work with me. Let's put it that way.
Can I tell you an amazing story? Incredible
I would
story.
love to hear one.
I mean, that's right there. That's the cream de la cream of stories. I'm sure you heard of Dion, right? The famous Dion from Dion and the Belmonts.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I might have interviewed him in Philly one year.
Yeah, he's just an amazing man. Like John, he's famous in the program. Just an incredible person.
Right.
He's got 55 years sober, and I'm not breaking his anonymity. Everybody
he shares
knows.
it with everybody.
He shares it openly. It's not like that was, like I did anything. And he's also a faith person. And he had heard that I have a faith Bible study on Wednesday nights, and I had always wanted to meet him from Dion from the Bronx, and I always wanted to meet him, and because I grew up on his music. The Wanderer, Run Around Sue. I loved it. And I watched this movie when I was a kid called The Wanderer about these gangs, and all his music was in it, and Teenager in Love. And I always wanted to meet him. Anyway, I got to meet him, and he heard I had a faith-based Bible study, and he came and played at the Bible study. The place was packed. My parents came. It was just incredible.
That's cool.
It was really, really cool. Now that night he brought his family, and one of the kids in his family was a 16-year-old kid that was high that night. And his name was Noah. That's his only grandson, his only male grandson. And he was high that night. During the years, Dion and I got to be friends. And one time he calls me with Noah in the car. And Noah was an atheist. He was actually almost like a Satanist because he had been wronged by some people in the church. And he said, "Stevie, talk to Noah about God." And I tried to talk to him about God. Of course, Noah wasn't ready to hear it. And every time I would get together with Dion over the years, he would tell me to pray for his grandson Noah, who's lost out there. So this is a story I want to share with you. One day I get a call from Dion, and he was like, at this time he's already like 78 years old, and he's calling me at 11 o'clock at night. So like Dion, like a hero of mine, is calling me at 11. I go, "D, what's wrong? What's going on?" He goes, "Yo, Steve, I go, yeah, D, what's up? He goes, Noah is in your treatment center. I go, no, your grandson? He goes, yeah, Noah that you've been praying for all these years is in your treatment center. And he's been there for a month and he's accepted God into his life. Now, I know all the clients and I never was didn't understand that his Noah, because he didn't know where he was, and his mother, when he dropped him off, didn't know that I knew her dad. God had brought, of all the 10,000 treatment centers in South Florida, God brought his grandson, who we've been praying for all these years, his grandson Noah, to JC's, who came in as an atheist and really a Satanist because he had all this stuff on his face. During that time, he gave his life to God. He met his future wife at JC's. I got to marry them as the minister and officiator of their wedding.
Oh,
they're over 6 years sober now. They're about to have a baby. They sponsor tons of people inside the program. So God knew that Noah needed to come to the treatment center to meet Miriam, who has also been to several treatment centers. They met there and they have 6 years of sobriety. Now they're having a baby. That's an incredible story.
That is an incredible story.
You never know. I mean,
that's why we do what we do.
That's why we do what we do.
And John, something in your story I just want to make mention of. You said when you brought that girl back, she was like MFer and she was mad at you. She probably hated you at that moment.
Oh, yeah.
And you know what? If we're going to help our children, if we're going to help our families, we have to allow them to be mad at us for a while.
That's right.
I hope they can hate you for a good, long, healthy life.
Yeah.
You know,
we'd rather us hate us and then stay alive.
When somebody's about to jump off a bridge, you reach out and you grab them. You don't stop and think, well, what if he's mad at me if I do that? You do it anyway.
Yeah, what if he sues me?
Why can't
you grab him?
We'll do that for a stranger, but we won't do it for somebody we love. So think about that.
Yeah.
Love them enough so that they can be mad at you. And what will happen is it'll come around.
Usually when they're mad at you, it's because you're getting to them.
Yeah.
You know?
Of course.
And that's what's interesting about all of it. And then all of a sudden that anger, like when you have a fight with somebody, a guy you went to school with, and all of a sudden you become best friends. And that's what it's like in treatment. Oh, I don't like him. He said this. He said, all of a sudden, then it's a whole different ballgame. You know, it's amazing how the transition that goes on, especially in a faith-based program.
Yeah.
Now, I worked in other programs. I've been to other programs. We're watching how they work. I got to tell you, JC's, and it's just.
Well, we have a really cool approach, and it's effective. More importantly, it's effective.
Yeah.
And we have 4 partners. Each of us bring different
Absolutely.
to the table. John.
And you respect each other and listen to each other and share ideas.
Yes, we do.
Fight like crazy.
We fight like crazy.
My
other partner, John Charles, one time and I had this huge fight. We weren't talking to each other. Just tell you what type of person he is. We weren't talking to each other. And he's got extensive knowledge of boats. He's a captain. And I had this little boat, and I went out on the boat, and the boats just started going around in circles. Part of the steering thing was broken. And I was in a harbor, and it just kept going around in circles. And John and I just had, not this John Charles and I just had this fight, and I called up John. He was there in 5 minutes and came and saved me. We put all that behind us. When you're in recovery, you can't afford to be resentful. We have 4 partners. We all love and respect each other.
Yeah.
We may not agree in that moment, but we all bring something different to the table.
Absolutely.
Oh, being angry for a moment or having this or having a fight or having a disagreement, being frustrated, those are all human things.
Yeah.
The resentment is something that we create so that we can keep punishing ourselves and
resentment
punishing others.
Resentment
it's got no real use other than for bad things.
Resentment is poison.
It's poison.
And the ego is easing God out. So we have to take a look, and that's why I'd rather be around recovering people. I know we do crazy things sometimes. I know we
say crazy things.
But the bottom line is we look at it, we step back, we talk to our sponsor, we go to a meeting, we talk amongst ourselves, and then it has a resolution.
And we learn from it. You know what Denzel Washington says? If you're going to fail, fail big and fail forward. He says fail forward. So if you're going to fail forward. Learn from it.
I think it was Zig Ziglar who says it doesn't do any good to bury a hatchet if you're going to put a tombstone there and visit it. So we got to let things go. We got to change. We got to do that stuff. We are running out of time, and I want to thank both of you so much. This is amazing. And Steve, I hope you come back and do more.
Yeah, I would love to. Thank you. I'd love to.
You join me on a couple of my other shows.
I'm such a huge fan of John.
Well.
I'd love to be.
I'm a fan of his. He's a fan of mine. We fan each other.
But that's why it works. That's why it works. So to wrap the show up, and we've gone a little bit over, but you know what? Sometimes you need to do that when the message is right, people. And I'm going to remind you now, please share this with your friends, like the program, subscribe to the channel. It's important that you do that and leave messages, leave comments. We will read them, and it's important that we know.
Hey, can I give my phone number real quick? My personal phone number?
What I want to do is I want to give each of you a moment. Somebody out there right now is listening, and they don't know what to do.
Yeah, so this is what I want to tell you. Don't give up. 22 years ago, I was sitting in a parking lot in Hollandale on Hollandale Beach Boulevard, and I called my sister in Long Island. I told her I was going to kill myself. And I wasn't just talking. I meant it. I was going to kill myself because I thought there was no hope. I had 7 years of sobriety. I took one drink, and somehow that one drink brought me to crystal methamphetamines and cocaine. And I was hopeless, and I had total darkness inside me. And if I would have quit that day, if I would have stopped, I wouldn't have been able to do what I was able to do for the last 22 years, which has helped thousands of people across the country and really across the world, because I've spoken in all different countries in the world. So I want to tell you, don't give up. You don't know what God has for you. You can't see around the corner, but God can. All you can do is see what's right in front of you, and you think that it's desperate because you're in desperate now. But the Bible says that your best days are ahead of you as long as you have a relationship with him. So don't give up. You never would know what you can do or what you can attain. Today's my son's 13th birthday. We adopted him on the first day of his life. We were told in the state of Florida we were not allowed to adopt because of my record. God didn't listen to the state of Florida. God brought us the most beautiful, incredible, perfect boy. And Michelle, he was bald for 14 months. We were looking at the pictures last night. We didn't know that his hair was going to come out beautiful red, that his hair was going to match exactly my mom, that his eyes were going to match exactly my mom's eyes, that his nose was going to match exactly my mom's nose. He has no blood relation to us, and he was the exact baby that God picked out for our family. So God knows what he's doing. But if you give up, if you don't get sober, if you, God forbid, die of this thing, then you're never going to be able to know what your destiny is. And then you'll become a story and not a testimony. And a testimony is great. This man's testimony is great, what he's done and what he continues to do. You'll be a story. People talk about you maybe at Thanksgiving or something like that, but you won't be a testimony. A testimony is how you change a person's life. That's your destiny. That's your legacy. Oh, and my phone number is 954-661-9523, 954-661-9523. I'm in recovery 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You're not going to get a response back on a Sunday because that's the Lord's Day. That's Sabbath. But you'll get a response back on that Monday.
John.
Yes, sir.
They're listening. People are listening, and they're afraid. They don't know what to do about themselves or a loved one. What do you want to tell them?
Well, first of all, there are no failures in life. There are only lessons. And the bottom line is this. Reach out and look. If you don't like what we have to say, you can always go back to doing what you're doing. And how's that working for you? All right? So come, give us a call. All right? Go to the website. See what it is. You know, I know we don't trust anybody. I know we don't believe in anything. But you know what? If you got to the website, if you got to Stephen's phone number, okay, that means somebody's pushing you in that direction. So maybe you should take a shot and give it a call and see where it takes you. You never know.
That's beautiful.
Thank you, John, Steve.
Thanks so much for having me on your show, John.
Oh, thanks for being on.
Thanks for having us,
I'm
Scott.
honored to have you on my show.
This has absolutely been a joy for me. Everyone out there, please remember that if somebody is hurting, somebody that you care about, or it's you, reach out for help. If it's a mental health crisis, remember the 988 number. If it's whatever a crisis might be, you can reach out to JC. You can call Steve. You can go to John's website. Don't forget to check that out, johnjgiordano.com, and you can get a hold of John as well. But just do something. The only thing that you're going to do that's wrong is to do nothing.
And remember, no decision is a decision.
No. Yeah, you're right. I think they say the only way for evil to
is to do
thrive
nothing.
is for good men to do
nothing.
Nothing.
To do nothing. So don't do nothing.
Good people do something. Reach out for help. And
faith without works is dead. It's time for you. If you want to change an attitude, you got to move a muscle. Pick up that phone.
And I'll tell you right now, if you're afraid that what you've done you cannot reverse, don't worry about it. The best people are built on the most solid foundations of pain and hard stuff and everything else.
That's right.
As a matter of fact, any palace that's built without a solid foundation of hard stuff, it will crumble. we actually have something that most people don't. We've seen the dark side, which means we can appreciate the light even more. Make sure you call somebody, get some help.
All right, everybody.
For John Giordano, for Stevie,
Johnny G.
Stevie B, for
All
Scott
right,
Jones,
Stevie
your
B.
co-host, I want to thank you for joining us. We'll catch you next time right here